Okay, so we're going to go ahead and talk about grouping equivalent forms, which means that we're going to be looking for the equivalent form of a fraction, a decimal, and a percentage. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to look at our fraction here, 17 over 20, and then compare it here. So before we can see which ones they match, we need to think about what connects all of them. So we have percentages, and percentages are always out of 100, okay? So it's a fraction that looks like it's out of 100. Once I have that, I can easily go to the percentages. So if you look, we have here some that are out of 100. So we're going to find the fraction that matches there on this one also. And then we're going to also, once I have that top number, for example, let's say you have 3 out of 100, that would be 3%. Or if you had 18 out of 100, that would be 18%. So once I have it out of 100, I can move it to a percentage. And then we can also write it as a decimal because we have our place values, right? We have our ones place, ones, we have our decimal, and then we have our tenths, which means that I can write any fraction that is out of 10, I can write it there. So if it's 3 out of 10 or 3/10, it would be 0.3. If it's 7 out of 10, it would be 0.7 because I would put that numerator, numerator in the tens place. But after tens place, we have the hundredths. Hundredths, which means any fraction that's out of 100 in my denominator here, I can write. So here where I had 3 out of 100 and I said it was 3%, that means I can write 3 in the hundredths place. So I would write 0 point in the tens place, put a 0, and then in the hundredths 3. That's how I could write it as a decimal. If I had, for example, 13 out of 100, that would be 13%, and I would write 13 hundredths there. Okay, so now that we had that little review, let's go ahead and look at the first one, 17 twentieths. So for 17 out of 20, we have it right here. But we talked about how 100 is that one that's tying it all together. So I want to go ahead and try to get to the hundreds. So I can see, can I go straight from 20 to 100? And yes, I can. So let's count by 20s. 20 plus another 20 is 40. Plus another 20 is 60. Plus another 20 is 80. Plus another 20 is 100. So that took us 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 times. So I can go straight by multiplying by 5 times 5. So we're going to go ahead and do 17 times 5. 5 times 7 is 35, so 5 carried 3. 5 times 1 is 5, plus the 3 is 8. So it's going to be 85 out of 100. So we can go ahead and move this one. 85 out of 100. So you'll be able to drag and drop it. I'm just going to write it in. And then now that I have that, since it's out of 100, it's very easy for me to write it as a percentage. So my percent options are here, here, and here. We're going to go ahead and use this one, 85%. Which means I can also write it as a decimal too. 85 out of 100 means 85 hundredths. So 0 point. The 5, the number needs to end in the hundredth spot. So this is a tenths, this is the hundredths. It's 0.85, so we're going to go ahead and use this one. Go ahead and try number 2. See from the ones that are left which ones are going to correlate with that. You can go ahead and pause the video while you're working. When you're done, you can play it, so that way you can do the next slide. So you should have finished that question number 2 on the previous slide. Now we're going to be talking about comparing rational numbers. Drag the correct inequality to the natural for the rational numbers. So we're going to be comparing 2 things. So we have this one, this one, this one, this one, this one, this one. So there are 6 different problems on comparing the rational numbers. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to look, and I have my less than symbol, my greater than symbol, and then my equal to symbol. If you don't remember which one's the less than, think about a capital L for less than, and then just go ahead and squish that L. You squish it, that's your less than symbol, okay? So we have 35 hundredths and 56%. We're going to go ahead and we're going to write them both out of 100 or make them to fractions and see if we can get the denominator of 100 so we can compare them. So this is 35, not tenths, it's hundredths, not thousandths. So we're going to write it as 35 out of 100. Percent, this is a percent, so that means it's already out of 100. 56% means 56 out of 100. So they have the denominator. Now I can compare them. So we can say, okay, I have 35 and 56. This one's the bigger one. I need to use my less than symbol. 35 hundredths is less than 56 hundredths. Remember, we want it to be eating right there. So I'm going to put that symbol between them. You can click and drag it. We'll do one more together and then you'll do the other 4 on your own. So we have 6 tenths. So that means 6 out of 10. And then here we have 1/2, which is just a fraction 1/2, but they need to have the same denominator. So I have 2 options. We can think back to our place values, right? We have our ones place. We have our decimal, then we have tenths, and then that's where we have hundredths. So we did 100 on the top because it was already at 100, so I can do that. We could also just do tens. So if I can. So this is already 10. This one right here is 2. If I count by 2s, could I get to 10? Well, let's see. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. Yes, I can. So I can multiply by 5, So this would be 5 tenths, right? 1/2, 0.5, or 5 tenths. So this is 6 out of 10. This is 5 out of 10. I can only compare them once they're both out of 10 is my denominator. And I see that 6 is greater. So then I'm going to be using my greater than symbol. And we're going to go ahead and put that one there. Now, if you're thinking like, I just want to stick to the 100s because that's what I've been doing, that's perfectly fine too. When you do it out of 100, it definitely helps you to compare it to more numbers. So you can go ahead and do 6 out of 10. And then to make it out of 100, we're going to do times 10 times 10. So this is 60 hundredths. The 1/2. You can also think of that, so that's 1/2. We want it to be 100, so times 50 times 50. So that's 50 hundredths, so we're comparing the 60 and the 50. You could also think about half as a percentage, is half of a full, if you say your phone's half charged, that's 50% charged, so that would be the 50 out of 100, so you can shortcut it that way. But both ways, you'll see 60 is bigger than 50 or 6 is bigger than 5, so you should be using your greater than symbol, okay? For the other ones, if it's percent, right, you would do 512 out of 100, okay? You could do that. So now you're comparing 512. You're going to have to make sure that this bottom is also 100. This is to the thousandths. So you have 21 out of 1,000 because it's to the thousandths place. If you want to make it to out of the hundreds, you're going to need to divide it by 10. Divide it by 10, which remember we talked about the shortcut is moving it just one space. But then you got to move this one space. So when you divide it by 10, it's 2.1 out of 100. So then make this out of 100. See which one's bigger, the 2.1 or the other number that you find. So you're going to go ahead and finish this up. When you're done, make sure that you go and answer the essential question on Schoology, and then go ahead and submit it.